Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special episode that we have here today. You may recognize a couple of these guests who are with us today from Punch Up Pod. Lila and Patrick. How are you? How are you both doing today?
Hey, we're good. Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Yeah, great to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. And in your honor, I've got a little seltzer with me with some stuff in it, to keep up with the whole.
You gotta represent always.
Absolutely. And I think interestingly enough, so Lila, I know you were with the Populist Voice Network.
Yes.
You did a little show there. And so this is a spinoff of the Populist Voice Network, People's Voice Network. This is almost a welcome back /
welcome home.
Welcome home. So,
thank you.
Yeah. And Patrick, we're great to have you as well and such. So
well, it feels like home if I'm crashing the party here.
There you go.
I'm invited.
No, you were invited.
Yes, great group of people. We are super happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So, ADC. Co-host
we're here, and we're doing all right. It's Alberta, it's Canada. Yes, we can complain about different things other than what you guys are going through, but it's the same shit, different pile.
Yeah.
Some overlap too, I'm sure.
We'll get into that later in the comparison of what's going on with you guys and some of the stuff that's going on here.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you guys have health care, so I'm going to call you guys commies.
Okay. Well, we'll always be your comrade, Pat. But the rest of the country, more right-wing religious fighting fuck waffles. But most of the group that we're here is the comrades. But
Right,
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and shout out to Ludin, who you don't see is in the background. He's our producer, so he'll be the one pulling up the clips so that we don't have to, because Lila and Patrick obviously know, but it can be a nightmare when you're trying to talk and host a show and
wearing all those hats. It's rough. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. What are you doing at 5 our time, Ludin?
Yeah. Oh boy. So we have a few different topics here that we're going to talk about today, and the first topic we're going to be talking about is the LA homeless bill ordinance that was passed, the local city council, and I learned as well, I believe it's 14 Democrats and 1 independent on the city council there.
Vote blue, baby. Vote blue.
Vote blue across the line, because that'll improve so much, as we're seeing in local government.
Disgusting.
In LA.
Yeah, it's truly horrible.
Yeah. So a little bit about this background and included it. So I think on the Google Doc it's a little out of order. Perfect. Yeah. So this new ordinance that was actually just passed on Tuesday, despite a lot of actual pushback, like there were actually I was actually impressed in light of all this to see residents actually there at the city hall protesting this, hyenas bill. But essentially this ordinance is an update, from my understanding, from an ordinance that was passed a few years ago, and it prohibits encampments of unhoused people near schools and daycare. So I believe it's 500 feet within schools and daycare, which I don't know about you, I find very interesting, because typically, I don't know LA well, but typically in urban setting, schools and daycares, they kind of are just buildings
right
within the overall structure. So you're not even aware that they're around.
Right. Well, I will say, so I'm in Los Angeles, and we have lots of overpasses that are near the schools that at least my kids have attended. And so there are, it's shelter on some horrific level for people who are without homes to be under a bridge. And I know, and I mean, on some level as a parent, I understand that walking to school under the bridge is a sort of scary prospect for kids when that's happening. However, I don't think that this resolution and criminalizing people and then not giving them homes. I mean, I think there was, I don't know how many hundreds of millions of dollars that were supposed to be like given to hotels so that homeless people could be housed during the pandemic. And I think most of that money went unspent. So, there are solutions that could actually help people. Just criminalizing them obviously is not the solution.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say in Sacramento in November, I live in Sacramento, which is Northern California, the other side of the state from Lila. And we have on the ballot in November a bill to criminalize homelessness as well. And the problem is, we have right now, they estimate 1,900 shelters. We can shelter 1,900 people. But we have, and it's a low count, but the low count is 9,300 homeless people. So we can only shelter 1 out of 6 or 7 homeless people. And that's, that's an undercount. It's really, we can only really shelter 1 out of probably 20 homeless people. But this bill, as part of the bill, it ups that number. It says you must provide shelters before you can give someone a ticket for camping in the wrong place. You must provide shelters for 60% of the homeless population. But why not go beyond that? Like why even 60%? Why not provide shelter for everyone that's homeless?
But we were talking about before, if you criminalize them, then you can put them in jail and they do your slave labor for you. Don't forget, don't forget what we need. I mean, really, like, it's so despicable. You're right. Of course we should house everybody, but they're giving away the whole game there, right?
Yeah.
That's the Build Back Better bill, isn't it? Putting people in prisons to ensure you have the employment and the capitalist system.
All right.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, they put these bills out to the public like it's a compromise bill between the homeless advocates and businesses, essentially, which is who is really pushing back on the homeless problem. But it's not a compromise. If it was a compromise and it was really out to solve the problem of homelessness, it wouldn't just be shelter. It would be job programs. It would be a full 4 or 5 phase system on how to get you out of this situation you're in, instead of
rent
just moving
control, raising
moving
the
you
wage, right?
to the cheapest box they can build in the state. Is basically what they're come down to.
Well, and I think what always gets me is, especially conservatives, but they love to say, "Oh, LA is a shit show. There's all these homeless people out in the street. Like, what the fuck is going on?" And then when you try and say, "Well, why don't we, I don't know, like implement a housing first policy, right? Or why don't we, I don't know, like provide shelter?" Then they're like, "Oh, well, that's not going to teach them a lesson. That's not going to, fix the issue. They're addicted." And it's like, okay, so like, what the fuck is your solution then, right? Like like it's such a punitive mindset, and it really is just internalized capitalism, where people pretend like they care about all homeless people, but then when the solution is house them, it's like, no, can't do that.
Right.
So,
or put a cap on rent control, or right.
Yeah. And they literally would rather these people be put into a jail program and spend like $100,000 a year on them to be in jail,
right,
in lieu of spending $10,000 on a social program that gets them out of the situation.
And even with the shelter situation, I know locally here, the most of the shelters have some sort of religious connotation to them. And then when you're in the shelter, you are under the timing of the shelter. So if you're a houseless person that's trying to work to get out of homelessness, you can't go to work because most of the jobs are at night, and the shelters won't let you back in because you only have that certain time to go in. So you're right. It's got to be a actual social program that builds the housing, provides some sort of basic income for these people to allow them to survive.
Yeah. And we see it works, right, in Scandinavian countries. I think it was in Norway where they have that. And I mean, what a beautiful way to approach your fellow citizens. Like, housing is a human right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. So yeah, Ludin, if you want to go ahead and just play the clip here, And I think one of the things that really stood out to me is just how the people there are just like, they've had it. You know, they came, they disrupted the city council meeting. They made a lot of politicians there feel uncomfortable. And yeah, go ahead and play it, Luda.
Pushing back against an idea. Representatives for some local hotels are pushing back against an idea to house the homeless in empty hotel rooms. The ordinance being put up for discussion by LA City Council. And Eyewitness News reporter Carlos Granda has the details.
The ordinance would require hotels to notify the city every day by 2 p.m. how many empty rooms they have for the night. During the pandemic, there was Project Room Key, but at that time, hotels opted to be in the program. Now they wouldn't have a choice.
This is not fair. It is not the answer. And legally, it raises all types of questions.
I always have an issue when the city tells businesses how they need to run their business. And so this is just an extreme measure.
Homeless people would be given vouchers to take to these hotels. Proponents say it addresses the lack of housing and would get people off the streets.
It's an issue that affects everyday working Angelenos just as much as it has affected folks that are already houseless.
Hotel and tourism officials say the measure could endanger the safety of hotel workers and guests, and they add they don't have the resources to deal with any problems.
We don't have what we are calling wraparound services, which were provided during the pandemic to the hotels that volunteered to accept hotel vouchers. Those wraparound services included mental health services, food services, 24-hour security that was trained to deal with the unhoused.
Part of the voucher program, what it would do is it would stop them from, basically, not allowing or discriminating against, right, people that have a voucher.
Since supporters were able to gather more than 126,000 signatures and present it to the council members today only had two options.
I don't have an option to vote no. My options are either to adopt it outright, which is not what we want to do, or send it to the ballot.
The vote was unanimous to put it on the ballot, but it's too late to put it on for this November. The earliest is 2024. In downtown Los Angeles, I'm Carlos Granda, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
All right, so this was actually, we jumped ahead. This was supposed to be, and that's my fault. So this actually is to, so it looks like what also happened in LA is that people voted on to get, or trying to get on the ballot for 2024, where hotels that are not at full capacity are going to be required to house homeless people. However, this is not going to go on the ballot till 2024. And that's just interesting that along the timing with when they pass that ordinance to criminal, or, make it so that people can't be homeless within 500 feet of schools and daycare centers, they're also doing this. So I'm just curious to get kind of your thoughts on that policy. Why the interesting timing? Why wait till 2024? Why couldn't the city councils just pass something like that as well?
Well, it feels like they're kicking the can down the road, right? And also, yeah. I think Scott was saying, if you only address one aspect of it, whatever anyone's feelings about how our country treats its people, which I think is repugnant, I can understand some hesitation possibly, because I don't know all the ins and outs of the hotel voucher program sort of happening randomly without any other support structure. I can understand that businesses would possibly push back against that, and even maybe just like regular people, if it's only like the Band-Aid that's slapped on a much bigger problem. It feels like this was designed to fail, right? Like, we're not going to do anything systemic. We're not going to fight for higher wages. We're not going to, Medicare for all. We're not going to, cap what rents can be, right? So we're not going to do anything that leads to homelessness. We're not going to solve any of those problems. And now then we're just going to take this huge issue and force a few people to deal with it. I imagine that would get a lot of pushback just from like regular citizens who might get on board for something that had broader applications than just we're going to throw them into random hotels at different times. It feels very poorly constructed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's really
I think that councilman gave it away when he said he's against anything that tells businesses how to run their business. You're literally the councilman, like the businesses. That's half your job is business and residential. I mean, it's pretty much split down the middle for your job.
Right.
And, you know, we know that local businesses, basically the Chamber of Commerce runs most cities. You know, the businesses that donate, they're the ones that end up donating and backing these campaigns. So ultimately, you know, we as voters and regular citizens don't have the same power as the Chamber of Commerce does upon these guys. And when he says, you know, I'm never going to tell a business how to run their business, well, you just laid out the game. You're going to tell people how to live their lives, but you're not going to affect business at any level.
It's like you sound like a libertarian now. You sound like those people where it's like, why are we mandating a wage? Just, you know, whatever they want to pay, they pay that. Like, and it's like, again,
free market.
Free market. Oh, okay. So these are all Democrats and are independent, and you're talking like Republicans. Who needs them now when you're doing just that? So
And what is the solution? Like, if that's not the solution, then what is that person's solution? What are they going to come up with? How to solve this? You cannot just criminalize people for trying to survive.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think you can expand this out from California, and this is a lesson for the vote blue no matter who people. These are all Democrats. So ultimately, when you get Democrats in charge of everything, if they don't want to do something, they'll find a way out of it. That's what they do. And this whole state is run up and down, top to bottom, from Democrats.
Well, and it's kind of, it almost goes with that sort of rotating villain, right? Like a lot of people, if we actually expand out nationally, right? A lot of people are saying, oh, it's Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema. But without them, you're always going to have somebody to fulfill that role. And, you know, again, I'm not going to pretend I'm savvy in LA politics, right? But from there, it does, the dynamic, at least from what I'm seeing, is playing out where there are people just playing that role, that right-wing role as is. And so, ADC, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, I've got many thoughts, but we'll try and keep it brief. The big thing is how do you have many elite events in LA? And we just had the Super Bowl in LA.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do with the houseless population during the Super Bowl? Because I didn't hear any of the athletes or any of the celebrities have to have any issues with running into anyone that was houseless around that new stadium. So what are you doing to get rid of them there? I mean, we know what you're doing. You're arresting them. You're beating them. You're using authoritarian dictatorship to get rid of them. But so what do you do for those aspects that you can't do other times? Of course, I'm not saying go authoritarian, but your whole thing is to hide the homeless. That's always been the goal of administration. Oh, we're going to hide the homeless. We don't have a homeless population. Well, that's just Cottonwood Joe over there. He just is shoeless just because he chooses to be closer to his southern roots. He's not really houseless. Or you've got, my wife and I were talking about it last night, is the fact that how many people are couch surfing? And I know in our like in my demographic, I mean, couch surfing was just normal. I mean, hey, you go hang out at a friend's house, or if someone was was between jobs or between moving or whatever, come crash on my place. It was no issue. So we know that administrations and governments aren't looking at those numbers. So when you're looking at the houseless population, you're only looking at the street population. You're not looking at this underlying number that no one's looking at. So
and a significant number of kids who are in LAUSD are homeless. And as you said, it could be from living in tents on the street to living in their cars. But it's not a negligible percentage. I mean, it's tens of thousands. And, you know,
we all don't have Sandra Bullock from The Blind Side to take us in and let us live their house so they can go and play football. But joking aside, Layla, you're right with the aspect of the social program has to start with a Medicare for All piece. And to provide, I'm pushing here in Canada, and I actually joined the Addictions and Mental Health committee for the Alberta Health Services here. So they're not going to like me. I'm probably going to last 1 year because I'm coming in with this thought process. I believe that mental health support is your basic health support. And if we can support mental health first, then we'll have less of the physical ailments that are decimating our healthcare system and forcing us to have the issues that we have now. So if you can, and when we're looking at the houseless population, a lot of it is due to addiction. A lot of it is due to mental health concerns. And that's where these people are dangerous. These people are dangerous because of the fact that you're looking at them as, well, you've already judged them. You're already targeting them as a danger. And your idea to actually combat against them, because it's always going to be combative, is to call the police. And we all know that calling the police is not, and funding the police is not the solution to help with a mental health crisis.
Yeah, and expanding that out, I mean, I wonder how many of the people with mental, health issues, if that doesn't stem from, as you said, like not having access to healthcare, right? And that, you're already down on your luck when you have to call an ambulance or be rushed to the doctor. And then now that bill has, put you in debt, and then it snowballs, and then you can't go to work and you don't have sick leave. I mean, our whole system sort of works together to, I think, assault all of our mental health on some level. And that's not to take away from, there's all different reasons that people have mental health issues, but I have a feeling a great number of the people who have mental health issues who are living on the street would feel a lot better if they were earning a decent salary and had healthcare and had a roof over their head and got sick leave, like all those ways that you take care of your people that we don't.
Absolutely.
Talking socialism, not capitalism, but we can't do that because that's not America.
Yeah.
But to what you said, ADC, your question, California's policy on the homeless isn't to house them; it's to move them. So what they do is there's a constant battle between social workers and socialist organizations, or just and people. There are lots of public groups, like there's Red Meals in Sacramento. They provide tents and food. And so what happens is local businesses get upset, say they want the encampment moved. So the city comes in and bowls over all the tents and houses, takes all these people's stuff. So they take everything they own and their tent. So they have to start over somewhere else. So you're not getting someone closer to leaving that situation. You're making it worse every time because they need to start over with their basic benefits. You're making it really hard for social workers to track and manage this person's progress because they're no longer at corner X that the social worker expects to see them. It's just a constant battle between businesses wanting these people moved. They get moved. These people start over, never closer to leaving the streets.
Right.
Absolutely. And they're just yesterday, I don't know if you guys have ever been to Vancouver, one of our major centers.
Yeah.
So if you've been to Vancouver, downtown Vancouver, there's a place called Hastings, very similar to where the arena is built or the stadium's built in LA. And we just had that where Vancouver police went and just dismantled the houseless camps because businesses complained about it. But 2 months prior, we had One Republic play at BC Place for a concert to start the BC Lions CFL season, and they closed off the streets for Biff Naked and One Republic. That was no problem. We can close off the streets for a big party, but we can't worry about our houseless population.
Yeah. Ugh.
So wanted to just quickly show, before we close out this topic, wanted to quickly show this video because it really just shows how the residents here just are fucking done with them.
Yeah.
So go ahead and
connection. It's what binds
once
our families.
we get through this,
unites our society,
advertisement
and links.
Connection. Yeah.
I mean, it's right there.
It's right there. So.
Oh Lord. How much capitalism is in
factory farming connection?
Yeah.
Oh, good God. That's Gates, isn't it?
Tyson, I think you might be right.
Oh,
and Raytheon.
Raytheon.
Oh, wow.
They're playing all the hits.
Oh, boy.
Go ahead, Lou.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Cares. Hi, everyone. I'm Susie Sa. And I'm Leslie Marin, in for Juan Fernandez. Now, supporters say it's a public health and safety issue. That's right. Opponents call it criminalizing poverty and a move that has a history of being ineffective. KCAL9's Candace Crone is live in downtown LA this afternoon with a deep divide over this issue. Candace?
And well, things got pretty intense inside council chambers. Nearly 100 people showed up, many of them saying that banning encampments criminalizes people, but the council disagreed, saying that this is an issue of public safety. A rowdy crowd shouted at LA City Council members who were set to vote on an ordinance that bans homeless encampments within 500 feet of schools and daycare centers. The meeting got heated when several activists opposed to the law started yelling insults at City Council members, saying the ordinance criminalizes the less fortunate.
4118 is failure. It is death. It is death at your hands. Answer me one question. When has criminalizing poverty ever worked?
Okay, so here's what's going to happen. If you don't be quiet in a minute, we're going to take a recess.
Things got so intense, several LAPD officers were called in to evacuate city leaders and kick out the public.
11 ayes, 3 noes.
After an hour-long disruption, the council reconvened and passed the ordinance 11-3, with some members in opposition.
We cannot pretend to parents who are desperate for change in Los Angeles that we can snap our fingers, pass a law, and end homelessness in LA by making it illegal to be homeless in a lot of places in LA.
What we did today is provide more safety for our students. We provided, when we're talking about school as it relates to safe passages. Today, we ensured that we have safe passages to and from our schools where you're seeing large, dangerous encampments.
Now, the council actually voted in favor of the ordinance 10-1 last month, but because the vote was not unanimous, they had to vote again today. We're live in downtown LA. Candace Crone, KCAL9 News. Back to you.
When you...
Yeah, so...
I mean, imagine if you had real journalists, not just like, oh, I'm just calling balls and strikes and there's people on both sides. Like, what if she said, you know, who does Buscano take money from? And why, you know, what does it take to make money to afford a single bedroom apartment in Los Angeles? And why have those rents gone out of control? Why do we have so many, you know, so much construction going around that with, you know, $2.5 million homes that look just like a regular home in the rest of the nation that are sitting empty for years? That could be a journalist's question, but instead it's like, well, it's just kind of both sides and it's so hard. Who knows? Back to you. Like, I mean, there's a reason that we have rampant homelessness. It's not just, it didn't just fall from the sky. There are victims. And when there are victims, that means that there are the bad guys, right? Somebody's doing the victimizing. They never call that out.
No, absolutely not. And I think one of the things that stood out to me as well is, so one of the city council members, and Lila, you probably know about this as well. So Kenneth Mejia, who is like,
yeah, I love him. I have a sign on my lawn.
Oh, do you? Do you? Yeah. So he's running for city comptroller along with, I think, Paul Correntz or something, who's one of the city council members who voted to pass that bill.
He's awful. Yeah.
And there was an interview with him right afterwards, and he basically was trying to say that Kenneth Mejia sent all those people there.
Yeah.
And then he sent all these anarchists and everything. And it's like, of course, what you do is you try and gaslight by being like, real people aren't actually concerned with this bill, right? Like, here we have a bunch of people who actually came in and made a lot of politicians feel uncomfortable to the point where they had to leave and then come back and vote for it later.
Right.
And but you're gonna be like, oh no, these aren't real people that are actually concerned about the fact that you are.
Putin and Kenneth Mejia sent them.
Yeah, Putin and Kenneth Mejia. And Antifa. And
don't forget Sarandon.
Yes, Sarandon always.
They're all getting their Soros checks, you know, because George Soros is definitely an advocate for the homeless. You know, he's a billionaire. So
one of the things I think that Kenneth Mejia does really well is all numbers, right? And it's all accountability. It's great, you know, where he's like, this is the money that was set aside. This is how much is used. what did Eric Garcetti do with the rest of that money? This is the money that was set aside. This is how much this person took from it. You know, I mean, that's the kind, like, that's what a journalist should be doing, actually.
Right.
But I think he presents things well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just
angry. Yeah, no, rightfully so. Yeah. So let's go now on a brighter note. I wanted to shed light on some of the latest things that have been happening with Starbucks workers, right? And I think so we're going to be talking about what's happening in Starbucks in Anderson, South Carolina. All right. So Anderson, South Carolina was the first Starbucks site in the South to unionize, right? This happened in early August. We have a couple of PVN members who actually reside in South Carolina. So I know they were especially happy about that. And so, but they presented a letter of demands to their store manager. And you know, basically saying that they need better wages, right? That they're overworked. And an interesting tactic that I've actually never heard before is that this manager tried to say so that these workers tried to assault her and kidnap her. Okay. So since that allegation, this store has been closed. But thanks to More Perfect Union, they actually pulled up an audio, a 6-minute audio of them having this conversation with the manager. And it's pretty clear that they let the manager leave at the end and that there was no real, kidnapping or assaulting going on. So, Ludin, if you're able to just to play that clip right there, just so we can listen to it and hear. Yeah, there it is. Perfect. Cool.
Today, because we are demanding our pay raise that Starbucks has promised every single worker back in October of 2021. They have illegally said that they're not going to give it to unionized stores until June or the end of, what is this month? August 29th. So we are here demanding that we get our pay raise. Here is a letter from Workers United officially waiving the rights of a bargaining committee to enact that raise to all partners here at this store. And as well as here is our personal letter. We're also demanding, I know you said there's supply chain issues with new machines, new ovens, but we are asking that you really push that we get the new equipment as soon as possible. And then basically, we want a fridge underneath Nitro because, that fridge is only half the size to hold kegs. And so we're tired of carrying it back and forth. Our old Nitro could hold 3 kegs, this one only holds 2. So here is our official letter. Basically, what's going to happen is we are not going to move until some action is taken for our raise. No work is being done on the floor. No customers are being served. So either call Nicole, call Jeff, call someone, but basically we are not going to move until our raise is enacted in Partner Central. I had looked on Partner Hub last night and I saw that managers have the ability to change partners' compensation. So I don't know who we need to call or who to get that involved, but basically we are not going to go back on the floor until our raise is enacted today.
Give me 1 second. Hey, so I have the entire team around me right now. They are not going back to work until they get their raise. Okay. Okay. All right.
She's on the phone, I think, right now with some of the people, but yeah.
All right.
I thought that was her screaming in the background.
All right.
I was hoping. Sorry.
Right.
Okay. Okay. All right. And I'm going to send you a picture of this letter real quick too. Okay. All right. All right. So
yeah, by the way, Caesar alert.
Nicole is sending me the information now. There's an altered date.
So that's illegal.
So that's all that she just told me. She's pulling up the weekly update now that information was in, and she's sending it to me.
Right. So I'm just telling you now that we.
It doesn't make it legal.
Yeah. Just because Starbucks is $1 billion corporation, I will file a ULP, which is an unfair practice.
Okay.
I do not have a problem doing that. I did one against Mandy, and I did one against Nicole. So you would not have to answer to Starbucks or Starbucks lawyers. You have to answer to the National Labor Relations Board and testify in court.
So that is what she has told me to do, and that's all I can do for now, guys. Yeah.
I'm just going to speak out here because I wrote something that I feel that speaks for all of us, and I'm just demanding that you give us a raise effective immediately. We carried this company on our shoulders through the pandemic at the risk of our health and our loved ones' health, and we have nothing to show for it. Nothing but empty promises. Instead, this company gloats about record-breaking profits with a CEO who outright views its partners as a third party, who blatantly disregards the law, who will do anything they can to union bust us in an economy that is squeezing us for more labor while we scrape by. Our partners are having to find second or third jobs, while this company slashes our hours out of the blue, threatening our benefits and inducing worry about how to make ends meet. To make matters worse, our daily shifts are frustrated by outdated equipment, understaffing, and general anxiety about escaping this vicious cycle of poverty and despair. These record profits are lost wages. We are making less than we did a year ago. We deserve dignity. We deserve our raise. We deserve this now, and we will not move an inch until we get our raise.
Hey, did you hear that? Okay. So.
That sounded like a whip. Am I wrong?
So Nicole,
the chair's involved.
We can do
Nevada caucus all over again.
Throwing chairs.
Yeah.
So they're literally asking this manager while she's touching someone else.
okay. That's it. So guys, are you striking?
We're just not going to go back to work until we get our
Okay,
raise.
if you're striking, you need to clock out and leave.
This is a march on the bus, not a
This is not a
strike.
strike.
And they're saying it's not a strike.
They know their facts.
It's different legal
No.
protections.
Then what is it?
It's a march on the bus.
It's a march in the box. March in the box?
Boss.
Boss. No, they're not operating. I can't. They're not letting me? Yes. Then they got it. No. Yes. May I please exit the building?
Can I speak to Nicole or have Nicole call me?
Can you call Neil? Yes. Will you let me exit the building and she will call you?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So if anyone has seen this manager, please report to, of course, Nissa never said they let her exit the building. No. So, yeah. So, I mean, just like, what are your, that's first of all, that's a really interesting union busting tactic, right? Just straight up pretending that you got.
You were, I mean, imagine the comfort that managerial class enjoys, that when the people who work for you are asking for the very thing that they were promised, that's right, that every worker should have, that you feel so threatened. You know, like, I mean, just if for them for a second to understand the desperation that so many workers are feeling, you realize like they are so out of touch with what most people are dealing with that they can't even be confronted in a very sort of, I mean, I thought civil way by the workers without resorting to these sort of like inflammatory accusations. It's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry. You should be going to jail if you claim someone kidnapped you. I mean, I don't want to advocate for
Libel
jail,
or
but
something.
like, come on, there's, yeah. I mean, I would find there's a good super libel. Someone needs some damages from it. But if you have damages from that lady, you can't get a job somehow. Or you can't
Just
get a
fucking
job.
pay them.
Create some way to sue her for libel.
Yes. Yeah.
Because she needs to be, and Starbucks by extension needs to be held accountable.
Right. Right.
Howard Schultz, the great Democratic hope.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Which, I mean, I think so. 3 things really. So I'll go to you next, ADC, to close out. But I think 3 things that really stood out to me from this whole interaction was those workers knew their fucking facts.
Yes.
They did their research and they were like, okay, nope, according to this, that's illegal. So you're going to do this. Right.
Yep.
And I think the second thing that really stood out was, and I'm not at all trying to shed any empathy on this manager, right? Because she is complicit in the whole process, but it does really seem like she really knew very little and she was caught in the middle, right?
Yeah.
And I think that really just breaks down the corporate capitalistic structure as is, where everything is just sort of ladder by ladder, where it's like, very bureaucratic. I know what I've been told this is what I can do. And then if anyone offers you a curveball or maybe calls you out and being like, well, why are you doing that? I don't know what to do. Right. Oh, call. Oh, they're saying this. Oh, okay. They're saying this to you. No, that's illegal. Oh, they're saying it's illegal. Like,
yeah,
it's like,
what really shows you, so many people say like, oh, well, I'm a capitalist. Like, nah, you're not. You don't really, you just you're just licking the boots of the capitalists, but you're not a capitalist.
You're a worker.
Yeah.
And ultimately, whoever's managing a Starbucks, they are not in the owning. They're not part of the proletariat. They are not.
No.
They are just. So I worked for Earthlink, which was an internet company back in the day, as they were outsourcing, and I was a sales manager. So I realized my role was to make shitty policies tolerable so people would stick around. I mean, that was essentially all they have these managers there for, is like, here's some shitty news, make it work, make it work. And like, I remember going into a meeting and telling my staff, like, okay, we're doing this a whole different way. And they're giving me all these reasons they think that's a bad idea. And I'm like, yeah, that's a bad idea, but that's how it's going to be. And here's why it's not such a bad idea. And then I get back to my desk. We get out of the meeting. Everybody opens up their emails. And the email is from the company saying, no, that was a dumb idea. We're not doing it. After I just go through this like hour-long pitch of like why, so I just, my credibility was out the door, as it should have been, but these managers are just, like I said, don't feel sorry for them at all. They're betraying the working class.
Yes, exactly.
But they're doing it for low wages as well.
Yeah. You have to choose to, very similar to you, Pat. I worked for PetSmart on Vancouver Island in BC. And so everything was dictated from Phoenix, Arizona. Like the ownership group still had full control. So we had all this stuff. And because the way the U.S. FDA and Canadian FDA are totally different, I know the American stores could carry veterinarian vet foods, where in Canada you can't. You actually have to go to a vet separately from your pet store. So we would have people come in and go, oh, I want to get this food. I'm from here. And I'm like, well, no, we can't get that sort of thing. But very, very similar to a whole lot of stuff. Our employees were treated like garbage. I was treated like garbage. They brought in a 5th manager of a 4-manager team, and he was going to be the relief manager. And I trained him, and then he took my job when they fired me. So I know all about this. But back to Starbucks. The best thing I saw on Starbucks is the group in Buffalo.
Yes.
That
you had the person fired and then everyone walked out in solidarity with them. That was fantastic. With the management, you can tell and the last thing here is the management, you can tell that they're going to that 2000 idea of compensating your employees. Hey, offer them a $50 gift card. See if they'll take it.
Yeah.
No, they're not going to take that. Oh, okay. Well, maybe $75, and just trying to give them some sort of crumbs to get them to either come back to work or get out of the store, so then they can terminate them all for just cause. So it's all the corporate game, and you're right that manager is a sellout.
Yes.
But they're a sellout for very limited money. And what people have to understand, anyone watching this, if you're a manager, fucking quit now. Like, you're not going anywhere. You're never going to be the CEO, because that piece of shit's going to step on your throat the entire time. And they're going to use you as collateral damage to get rid of any aspect that they don't like. So just know, middle management, unless you are brought in as a person who has no human empathy, you're going to be gone, and you're basically fodder.
Well, and that's the thing with these things, right? The people that have the real power are not there for a reason. It's because they know that what they're going to do is exactly what they did to that manager, right?
Yeah.
And that's by design, right? That's why the people who were in power are on the other end of that phone. They didn't want to be in that room.
Right.
And so, yeah. And I wanted to kind of bring this back a little bit to what's been happening in Boston, right? So Boston, there are at least 5 Starbucks on strike right now, right?
Awesome.
One of them that started this whole thing, they have been on strike for, I believe, 23 days now, give or take 23 days. That is the longest in Starbucks history, that for workers. So this really is unprecedented times. And Ludin, if you're able to, you can just pull up real quick graphic that talks a little bit about it. I want to kind of move on to ADC's topic soon, because I know we're a little pressed for time. But you know, one of the things that I think is really interesting that they're doing in terms of union busting tactics out in Boston, and that specific Boston Starbucks store, is that the store has been closed, that they've been striking for 23 days. And essentially the workers have just kind of occupied that space, right? They've been sitting on the picket line 24 hours because they got to have at least a couple people on the picket line all throughout the day, so that Teamsters that are delivering food can't cross the picket line. It's in their contract not to cross the picket line. And so, but one of the things that union busting tactics that they've done is that a couple of Starbucks workers, they're thinking scabs, actually came and took the table that was on the patio that the workers were using. They took some chairs, and the cops, of course, accompanied them to there. And now, you know, there every so often there are cops that are just hanging out outside of the store that's picketed, you know, as some intimidation tactics. And I find it interesting because this happened on Monday. On Sunday, they had a huge picket all throughout the day. There were so many people that came out to support. They were making noise and loud noises, you know, and having a lot of solidarity amongst people that were passing by. So, of course, they're going to do that right after they're getting so much attention for it.
Right.
But, yeah. So, there's just a letter there talking about their demands. We don't necessarily need to go through them. But, yeah, I guess I'll let any of you, if you want to kind of have the final word on this topic before we move on to this amazing climate change bill that ADC is going to shed some light on.
Well, I mean, you know, as you go towards that, and I'm sure you're going to talk about all the disappointments in there, but I mean, I do think that these strikes and the growing popularity of unions in our country is the only thing that's going to change our country, because clearly electing one more Democrat is not the answer. So, you know, this is hopeful. I mean, I feel so bad for people who aren't making any money for 23 days. That's terrifying, right? But kudos to them. I'm so inspired by that kind of solidarity. So thank you to anybody who is striking. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I just want to say we need to make Starbucks feel a cost from this. Like, so that's the missing piece here. They still have record profits, you know, so we need to get the public at large, not just leftist activists, not just stop going to Starbucks. I mean, if it's unionized, we need the unionized Starbucks to be a badge of honor. Like, oh, we'll go to the unionized Starbucks, but fuck all those other Starbucks. You know? And we need to, like, what is the cost to Howard Schultz and Starbucks shareholders if they can get away with closing these places down? And, you know, there needs to be a public reckoning, which is the piece that is coming. This unionizing is, you know, it has a trickle down effect. One Starbucks unionizes, another one does, another one doesn't. You know? So that's why they're fighting every small win with all they've got, because they know ultimately this could hurt their brand, which it hasn't yet, but it needs to.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love the fact that the Starbucks unions are still legit in unionizing. The concerns I had with the Amazon union and what we're seeing now, that it's been bastardized and someone's just going out and doing a lot of photo ops and appearances on shitty streams with shitty people to try and promote the fact that it's solidarity. And it's really not solidarity, it's capitalism. And fuckers are making money off this. Everything started out good, but as soon as you added fucking AOC and Badass Bernie to the mix, it just went down the shitter. So yeah, that's the big thing is that we have to have, like, the union is the hardest part. Like, I'm a pro-union person. I've been in unions. How I'm pro-union, I don't know, because every union I've been a part of, I've been fucked over in, based on the fact that I was low man on the totem pole, and the union aspect is to promote the people that have the seniority. But with that being said, if it wasn't for unions, we wouldn't have the 5-day work week. We wouldn't have 8-hour days. Like, unions, and to a greater extent, communism was the thing that forced the hand of the oligarchs and the capitalists to actually change.
Yeah. And to be clear too, I think different unions have different leadership structures, right? So some do have a very hierarchical bend, and others do have a much more democratic way of going about things and decisions. And that is one thing that a lot of unions are voting and trying to actually lean more towards, because they've seen, as ADC described, the downfalls with that kind of sort of hierarchical approach. And so, yeah, I'm going to look, because there is a link somewhere in there to actually, if if you want to support the strike fund for specifically the Boston Starbucks workers. But I'll look for that. And then ADC, if you want to move to the climate bill. And I know both you two, Lila and Pat, at some point are going to have to prepare for your show later tonight.
Sorry, I know we have an hour
okay.
before we go live.
We're not going to. I'm not going to feel offended at all that you walk out in the middle of me reading. So it's all good.
We're kidnapping you. We're holding you hostage.
Oh my
I'm being oppressed.
Oh God,
I'm being oppressed.
Am I free to leave?
Being oppressed. You're not free to leave. Never, Andrew. You can't do that.
Call the manager.
Austin actually just posted, one of our comrades from the PBN posted, Walmart's the #1 employer in the country. They need a union. They need to be blown up. They don't need a union. They just need to be fucking destroyed.
When we say, okay, so just clear for people watching YouTube and everything, like we mean they should not exist anymore.
I mean, the corporation needs to be dismantled, not anything to do with anything that you're going to fucking tag us on and ban us like you've done with all the other stuff with the U country and the C-19 and all the other bullshit that you guys do to. Anyway, fuck you, YouTube. Anyway, we'll go to the landmark U.S. climate bill. Will do more harm than good, groups say. Well, of course they will, because Joe Biden put it through. So the climate legislation passed by the Senate after months of wrangling and weakening by fossil fuel-friendly Democrats will lead to more harm than good, according to frontline community groups who are calling on Joe Biden to declare a climate emergency. Everyone's been trying to declare a climate emergency for years. If signed into law, the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, the IRA, wow, is that not just telling right there? I just remember an IRA in the 80s that's slightly different than that, but probably just as damaging. Would allocate $369 billion to reduce America's greenhouse gas emissions and invest in renewable energy sources, a historic amount. Scientists estimate will lead to net reductions of 40% by 2030 compared with 2005 levels. Be the first significant climate legislation to be passed in the U.S., which is historically responsible for more greenhouse gas emissions than any other country. No mention of the fact that the U.S. military machine is the biggest emitter of CO2 in the world, 16th to world nations, but we won't talk about that either. Bill makes a slew of concessions to the fossil fuel industry, including mandating drilling and pipeline deals that will harm communities from Alaska to Alapia. How do you say that, Andrew? I was well, that's what we were told. But when I was watching the United Shades and Kamau was there, it was Appalachia.
Right.
Yeah,
With a softer A, Appalachia.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's something. We're going to have a number of people from there here on the PVN in the coming weeks. So we'll learn quite quickly, and we're looking forward to that. But the biggest thing that we're coming through, I could just read this for forever. It's the watered down version of Biden's ambitious Build Back Better bill, which is blocked by every single Republican and also conservative Democrat senators, Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema. You can tell the Guardian's just another mainstream media that just spews out bullshit. Both received significant campaign support, fossil fuel industries. Yes, if anyone hasn't been aware, we had colleagues there. Manchin is the coal baron. He's got multiple coal mines in his state, and he's a piece of shit that doesn't pay his people, and he's just a piece of garbage. It's got nothing to do with Democrat or Republican. He's a piece of trash. I mean, but they use him as that scapegoat. He's that he's the Russia. He's the bad enemy. He's the China. Whatever the Democrats can do, use that. So yeah. So it's a coal baron is what they call them. Basically, the one thing that really sticks out because they're going on in this about what it's going to mean to China. Okay, so people, we're just going to just go bare bones here. Basically, what this means is the fact that any new initiative for energy in the United States is going to be offered to the fossil fuel industry first before any sort of alternative energy source. So what they're doing in this reduction of greenhouse gases, which reducing greenhouse gases is like fucking getting away with the plastic straws. By the way, I hate paper straws. Anyone gives me paper straw, but this is going to cause a whole lot of rage. Anyway, plastic bags, plastic straws, they're putting it on the consumer, but this is giving the oil and gas industry carte blanche to do whatever the hell they want to destroy the environment even more and just basically decimate the climate while we're all trying to get people to understand this is a climate revolution that's needed, not climate change or climate action anymore. We need to do a climate revolution. And I will go to our guests for their response on this whatever supposed historic bill.
Yeah.
I'll simplify it. All you need to know is that Exxon loves this bill. So if you're creating a climate bill and Exxon loves your goddamn bill, you have failed miserably. Who else likes this bill? Joe Manchin likes this bill. Joe Manchin, who is, like you said, a coal baron, who is still on, he's still the chair, the top Democrat on the Energy Commission. You know, so what this bill does, it basically says, we will provide some treatments for the poison, which is poison, you know, the climate change, where the toxicity Americans add to the environment. We'll provide some treatment for that if you'll approve more poison for that.
Right.
So we'll let you do some carbon offsets and these different things, but you got to allow some more carbon. You know, like it's so far away from helping fight climate change, and it actually hurts our efforts to fight climate change because people think this means something because they're told, oh, this is a big step. So it basically delays further action instead of getting us closer to more action.
I love that they talk about it's reducing it from 2005. I mean, that's 17 years ago, and we all know what's happened in 17 years. So it's even less impressive than a 40% reduction. And then, as you said, with the military, we're at $800 billion a year, and this allows $40 billion a year for climate. So what is that? 200? My math is so bad.
Math is hard. Don't worry about
math.
it.
There's three kinds of people who can count and people who can't. That's
right.
My math joke. It's reprehensible. And everybody in mainstream media is talking about how it's the most, Biden saved us. He's a president who gets stuff done. It's the biggest climate bill in history. It's the only one. So great.
And Andrew, what is your thoughts on this one?
I mean, I think the amount of money that was put into this climate bill is like half the budget, not even half the budget of the defense industry. I mean, I shouldn't even call them the defense industry, but like that's
The
what they're
war
called.
industry.
The war
Yeah.
industry, the attacking industry.
Yeah.
Our military industrial complex, right? So our, that right there should tell you all it needs to know, right? It's the same type of thing with the whole Build Back Better. Yes, it failed, but they were trying to make it sound like this was an amazingly expensive and putting all this money. But of course, they used how much money was put into it for the 10 years, because they knew that if you just brought up the yearly cost, people would be like, "That's it."
Yeah.
And that's exactly that's exactly what you need to know about that, and who really is benefiting if it's really that small. So
100%.
The whole
So
thing
Layla
is
Pat,
it's for a
go ahead.
fake win. Sorry, it's just for a fake win for Democrats. That's all.
Yeah.
Sorry, my radio of knowing the time and counting down the
Thank
clock
you.
is totally there. So what do you guys have coming up? Any special guests or what? Where can people find you and all that sort of stuff?
Well, first of all, thank you for having us. You guys do such great work. We love watching you guys and, highlighting the things that you highlight. We're, all on the same page. So thank you. We are both on Twitter. I'm at Lila C. Lee. Pat
Pat the
changed-
Burner. No, I'm
Just
still at
Pat.
Pat the Burner.
I
Well,
know,
I
but
mean,
you
my
changed
actual
your name.
handle.
Yeah.
I'm so torn on changing it. But
I
anyway,
know.
we're Punch Up Pod is where we have our show on YouTube, which is our show is at 5:00, 8 Eastern time tonight.
54 minutes away. And today we're actually really excited. We have Andrew Perez from The Lever on, a great independent journalist and a great outlet, The Lever. So we're really excited. Next week, I think we have somebody coming on from Camp Dada, which is trying to, establish a sort of outreach to people who want to do community service and unionizing and all these sort of solidarity efforts. So and I'm leaving at 7 a.m. to come to your side of the country, Andrew.
Heck yeah. Welcome to Boston.
Cheers, you guys. Thanks so much for having us on. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Have a
Appreciate it,
great
guys.
show tonight.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Cheers.
Take care.
Take care.
So first of all, I'll apologize, Lila. I called her Layla the entire frickin' show. So Lila, I apologize for mispronouncing your name. That's my first thing. So as we have those sort of descriptors and shit, like what do they have, like the what newspapers used to have, like the corrections or whatever. So that's my first correction, and I'll message her and apologize in person. But yeah, that was great. They were fantastic. Lots of insight on LA, which I really appreciated because I'm not from there. I'll tell you the truth, Mike. I've never gone anywhere. Like my trips into the United States have been Washington State, Oregon, Idaho, and the Dakotas. That's it. And I've not been anywhere else. COVID has stopped any sort of travel for me, and whatever the hell is coming next. I'm not traveling anytime soon, but I'll be here in spirit, and we're connecting this way. So speaking of connecting, Andrew, you've got anything coming up for your show?
Yeah. So first of all, I wanted to say PVN next so Pop People's Voice Network tomorrow. We're going to be doing the New Left at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll have the couple guests. So we'll have RPM and Andrea, right? Who will be two guests. And
we have Logan as the host, correct?
And Logan will be hosting. Absolutely.
Fantastic. We've missing Logan. We love them, and they haven't been around. I'm not going to be able to be on the panel, but that's fine. I mean, you guys have had enough ADC in the last few weeks, so we're going to take the break on our regular show tomorrow. Logan's going to run the ship. Luden's going to be doing production, doing amazing stuff like he did tonight. Again, thanks again, Luden. And like we've got some he's our comrade, but your partner with Overlook News. Z came out with an amazing article for Substack that we've got it's coming out on YouTube next week. Is that correct? Doing something on that
I
for
think
YouTube?
so. Yes. I know I'm doing something for YouTube. I think next week. If
awesome. So it's going to be busy.
Sorry,
and
Z, if I'm rushing you, I think that's what you said.
Hey, no
but yeah,
worries.
either way, it's coming out.
I'm excited. You can tell. Like, well, you can tell I'm more awake. Like right now, it's 5 o'clock my time. So when it's like gets to that, when the normal time here, when we're on for me is the normally I'm at 6. So I haven't gotten bear down with dinner or anything like that. So I'm more awake now. But point being, very excited. The PBN, we've got lots of great guests. Like we're booked up. Z is our booking management, and he's done some amazing work and getting us. I mean, we just talked to a couple of them today. There's 2 more tomorrow, and we've got guests coming. If you want to be a guest, you're seeing this, you thought, hey, you know what? I've got something we want to talk about. Follow us at People's Voice PBN on Twitter, here on YouTube, here on Twitch. Everywhere you're watching, just like, subscribe. What is that? Ring the bell. I'm not JB, so I can't sing Ring the Bell. I mean, the man is amazing singing, like doing all those sort of things. I can do some impressions. We'll do them another time. But just asking people to throw the support there. I'm going to bring back the Left, White, North. I think we're going to do the Left, White, North report in September. We're going to just holding off, trying to get just a lot of shit going on here in Canada, and I want to get some stuff. There's got word that the new movie Prey, that's supposed to be like is the Predator that everyone was very excited about having an Indigenous influence. Unfortunately, the producers hired a dirty cop from Calgary as one of their people who has a huge rap sheet of violence and abuse and harassment to the Black Lives Matter movement and people of the global majority. So I'm not really excited to see that movie and support that piece of trash, which is unfortunate because what the people in it did an amazing work, but unfortunately I can't. You should have vetted a little better. I just can't. I can't allow that sort of thing, and that's just my judgment piece. But yeah, we've got amazing stuff. I really want to get a hold of someone from like we've been back and forth about. We're going to do something PBN on the toxicity of sport. In Canada, Hockey Canada is a disgusting organization. I know U.S. Gymnastics is a disgusting organization. So like, it's horrible. It's toxicity, and it's hard for me. I'm a diehard sports fan. I love sport, and I'm having a hard time loving sport now because of all the shit that I just ignored while I was involved in the sports, as well as seeing these horrible situations that these people have been victimized by individuals that utilize their power, and then all the money cover-ups and all that stuff. We could even go into the WWE. Vince McMahon, if anyone is following that, he's now at $20 million of hush money that he's paid out of the WWE coffers, thinking because he's a chair he'll get away with it. Unfortunately, that's actual against the law, so there'll be that. But yeah, it's a lot of that shit we want to do. I want to cover more topics in regards to allowing the voiceless to have a voice. And so if you are said you have a story to tell, reach out to us. We'll gladly bring you on, gladly give you that platform to talk either on the Left, White, North report or right here on the New Left, whatever it is. We're going to make it happen. And finally, you can support all things PBN on our. How many things do we have now? You can go to My Coffee. You can go to our Patreon is up
in the
and
description.
running.
All the links should be there.
All in the description there. If you want any of the merch right now, Baller Gear is doing it, sort of. I mean, we have it there. Go to ballergear.org and you can search the People's Voice PBN or People's Voice collection. All proceeds from those items will go to PBN. I launched a couple of things. I wanted to take a shot directly at Hillary Clinton. No one really jumped on it, but I've got a shirt there that because she's grifting about her fucking emails. So it's like, fuck your emails, ask about Epstein. And so we're going to provide $3 from every one of those items to the Free Assange campaign. So if any of the Free Assange people are there, reach out to me. Like I said, I've got a solution with Baller Gear that can provide a ethnically and ethically produced product. All we need is the right avenue to do it. So reach out. We're not trying to be capitalist compensated cucks. We're just trying to do what we can and provide the support we can. So that's from my side. Follow me at ADC on PBN or at Left White North, Angry Dead Canada on TikTok. Andrew, we follow you on Twitter.
Yes, at Radical Pragmat 1. And yeah, Overlooked News at some point, down in a few weeks or so, be coming back up. Just, we got, my co-host has a child. So that's,
there's a little baby girl that is keeping your co-host very busy. I mean, love them here as a viewer and joining us and still doing the support, but totally understandable that they can't put the time in. And they want to put the time in to be able to provide that content that you guys have done up until now. So that's great.
Absolutely.
So everyone tune in here again tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, correct?
Yes.
Yes, 8 p.m. Eastern, and that's Logan, and they've got some great topics there, and we got some great guests, and yeah, I'm done from my side, so we'll talk to you guys later.
Heck yeah. Take care.